So first up, we've got Jackson Sponaugle from Synoptic Data, and he's going to be talking about democratization of real-time data using Synoptic Data Viewer.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about data aggregation, weather observations, and democratization of weather data. We're going to highlight Aspen Global Change Institute, who we met here last year, yeah, USGS. So a quick history on Synoptic. I know some of you know Synoptic data a little bit already, but we started as MesoWest from the University of Utah. And they started aggregating stations for the 2002 Winter Olympics. So basically, the university helped the National Weather Service office get stations in the valley and in the ski resorts, bring them all together, put them in one place. And that model kind of grew something into the National Mesonet program, who many of you are a part of. And so Synoptic kind of helps run that program and aggregate that data for the National Weather Service. And those blue bars over time are just showing our station count. So we're always trying to aggregate more data, provide access to more real-time observations. We became a public benefit in 2018 and a B Corp in 2023. This is just kind of to commit our values to getting publicly available data out into the public domain so people can make more informed decisions. We also started working with the WMO in 2022 to kind of build a global platform for data observations. So this is kind of Synoptic in one slide. Is our mission is to enhance public safety by expanding access to environmental data sets. And so we have about 144 million daily observations from 140,000 stations globally. This is from 320 plus data providers, who some of you are in this room. And we disseminate all this data through our API, which has about 3 million daily requests on it. So again, Synoptic's mission is kind of to fill in those gaps. So right now we're just looking at the US, and on the left-hand side is the AWOS network that NOAA maintains, and then just kind of filling in those gaps. So taking 2,500 stations to over 100,000 stations. And then again, 140,000 stations globally. So we're just looking in to fill in these gaps, especially in Africa and South America. We do have lots of great networks in the US that's great, has great coverage, but looking in to fill in those other gaps. So basically talking more about what Synoptic does for a single data provider is we work with each data provider to get their data from them and then basically provide API service back to them with quality control, and then provide the Synoptic data viewer that I will demo after this, and then access to all of the surrounding networks. So basically, even in the US, we can help fill these gaps. So you don't have to focus on, you don't want to place a station right next to another station. You want to kind of spread them out and help fill in these gaps. So just as an example from last year, with Aspen Global, taking their 8 to 10 stations, and then having access to those 250 just in this little box that they have right around their stations. So I will demo this in a moment, but just a slide talking about, again, the democratization of the data and making it publicly accessible. So this link here, viewer.synopticdata.com, 100% publicly accessible, and you can view all of the public data, graph it. So I'll do a quick demo of that. And then something that's geared more towards data providers is this dashboard information that will show you. I'll show this, but it shows battery voltage, quality control, data latency, and then give you some more information on what's happening in real time. So I will switch over to this. Michael, if you want to help. Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so right now I just zoomed in on Logan, but we just zoom out. This has data from all over the world in here, and you can come explore. So every time I zoom in or out, this makes an API call to our system. You can click on a station, you can graph. Where right now we're looking at air temperature. We will add soil moisture on here, but you can look at precipitation, all kinds of things like that. You can change the units. You can look at number of days you want to go back. So we can change this to 7 and change this graph to 7 days back and look at our quality control in real time as well. So again, I encourage you to check this out if you haven't, or share this with someone who might like to see. So again, we can zoom in on Logan. As I'm doing this from quite far away, I will do my best to find Logan. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. So how does it choose which station is appearing when it's zoomed out? When you're zoomed all the way out, it kind of prefers the ASOS network just because they might be the most reliable. Thank you. But yeah, as you zoom in, all of the stations will pop up. Thank you. Yeah, so there's the airport right there. Thank you. I promise I am local to Utah. Yeah, so there's the airport here. So you can see all of the stations that are available just in this area. You can also go back into any time in our database. So you can just click this on historic mode, do that as well. If there's a certain network you're interested, you can search that here and go through this. And for example, I could type in AGCI and they would show up there as well. You can also, I'll just kind of highlight just a couple of things here. So kind of the metadata component, we try to keep as track of much metadata as possible that the data provider will give us. So again, we'll link to their website, tell you how long the archive is, give you a little bit more information about metadata. You can also look at tabular format of the data as well. And see that in our quality control will show up. And you can graph stations. If we want to add a new plot, kind of just doing this on the fly, and you wanted to see air temperature from a single station, we're just trying to make this very easy, very publicly accessible to just see data in real time. So as far as data providers go and maybe a little bit more information, we've provided this dashboard capability. There you can really see all of the stations that we have. So maybe internet seems to be a little slow. I might just go to one that we have. So I'm going to highlight Michigan State's network without their permission. So here's their network. You can come in here and see all of their data in real time. And then you can also look at station status. So this will show you a little bit more information like latency, the data age, as soon as it loads here. Battery voltage in real time as well. You can see it from the past 3 days. And then the quality control flags, if any, are showing up. So kind of just a good data management tool. And then lastly, you can come in here and create notifications depending on the criticality. You can do it on missing station reports. So if a station has gone down, you'll get an email and a text. or on a certain condition if you're interested in temperature, again, soil moisture, anything, any threshold, you can come in here and set a notification for that as well. So this is something that we've just kind of provided, especially to data providers, to help monitor their network, maintain it, and make sure observations are flowing. So again, this part of the tool is all public, and I encourage everyone to use it and pass it on. This is kind of the way that we are democratizing data and making it available to anybody who has this link. So that's part of our B Corp mission and what we want to do. And it looks like I have 3 minutes for questions. Yeah.
Well, just a second.
Individual sites. How to get the data from the individual sites up to your cloud or services?
Thank you. Yeah. So some of it's from the National Mesonet program, but we like to work with every individual data provider and work with them to get permission to put their data on here because most of the data providers want to expand access to their data as well. So we just work with individual providers.
Hi, this is great work. Thank you. Is there an API that we can use to access and download this data set onto our systems to do other statistical analysis?
Yes, of course. So yeah, this is just kind of our easy version that we kind of put out of the box solution for, so you didn't have to develop this yourself. All of this data is available through our API, again, with the quality control flags and with advanced precipitation service, and we can send you lots of documentation on all that information. So there's some great things because our API is our main product, and this is just something that we want to provide as well.
You mentioned soil moisture a little while ago. Have you come to some arrangement so that soil moisture will eventually be visible to the public? Because most of that's still behind the paywall of Mesonets.
Yeah, so that's kind of dependent on the data provider, what they want to make public and private. But yeah, we encourage everyone to share as much data as they want. And especially on here, we'll make all of the soil moisture available on this map as they make it available.
So typically what we do is we always believe that the data belongs to the providers. And by the way, I'm Ashish, I work with Jackson Summit Synoptic. The idea here is that if you have any data sets that are restricted, because sometimes providers want to make additional funds or they get additional money for their data sets, so we protect their privacy. So we have agreements done pretty transparently. So if you make your data public, it'll show up on the viewer. If you make it private, then it'll be available through whoever is paid to the provider, and then we get them the API token to get access to all of the data. So that's how this works. The other one important thing I also wanted to mention was we also do a lot of historical backup. So there are many network providers who have come back and said, here's our 20 years of data. Can you put it back in your database and make a quick backup and archive for all historical data? So we do that so that we also act as a secondary backup. If ever something happens, you had storage issues or anything like that, Synoptic never deletes any data. So you can always access your own data back, going back to whatever date we have stored it for you.
I have a question from online from Nandita Guar. Do the data providers do the QC, or does Synoptic have a centralized QC data flagging process?
Yeah. Yeah, we have about 80 quality control flags that we've been working on basically for 20 years back since Meso West. Yeah, so we can do that QC. And if the data provider passes that on, we can work with them if they want to QC their own data.
Yeah, all the QA QC is done in real time. So as we get new data sets, when you're polling, you're getting QA QCs applied right there on the data set. So you get those flags. By Synoptic, we do that. So you don't have to. I mean, if you do it, great. But regardless, we still run about 80 different types of checks.
Are those QA/QC data available for public use, or are they behind a paywall?
You can see them on here. Those are advanced quality control flags. They're shown here. If you want to pull them yourself and get them through the API, that's behind paywall, the advanced quality control. Yeah.
You're a data provider, you get free access. to
Yeah.
the data.
If you're a data provider and you want to provide Synoptic data and then get your own data back with quality control, that is not behind a paywall.
I actually don't know the answer to this, but have you captured all the data from the National Centers for Environmental Information?
In CEI.
Yeah.
Actually, we're meeting them next week. Sorry. We are meeting them next week. We have most of the data since we started collecting. What we have not done is gone back and backfilled some of the data till 1930s. That is a project we have in-house. We'll probably, by this time next year, we should have that done.
What about co-op data, like daily data, that kind
I think we have all the co-op data, co-op, COCORAS, all the public networks, all the major federal networks, all the ROS networks, everything is available. So USGS is available, NOAA tide stations, NOS, buoys, pretty much most of the coastal Great Lakes, Alaska, all that data is around. So, and we try to encourage our users to make it public so that everybody can benefit, because sometimes people think that, okay, everybody, when you look at Facebook and Amazon, is like, oh, data is gold. And yes, data is super important, but if you protect the data, not everybody's willing to pay 20,000, 50,000 a year for data, right? But if you make it public, and you can use the surrounding data and the spatial checks and the temporal analysis and all the other stuff, is so much more valuable that you get so much more out of that data products, because now you're leveraging someone else's network also for your benefit. So your capital expenses go down. You're more focused on maintaining and operating your stations. And if everybody does that, everybody gets a great quality data for a very low price. So it's a good principle, I think.
of? All right, I think we should probably move on here. Oh, okay, we can, okay. Let's see, so, thank you, guys.